In the dim glow of a lantern-lit barracks, young Cadet Henry Johnson clutched a crumpled letter, his heart pounding like distant thunder. The air hung heavy with the scent of polished leather and coal smoke, while the sharp tang of fear twisted in his gut. Rain pattered against the window, each drop echoing the turmoil inside him. Should he speak out against the injustice he'd witnessed, or bury it to protect his fragile future? Henry had arrived at West Point in 1906, full of dreams forged in the fires of a segregated South. His skin, dark as polished mahogany, marked him as one of the few black cadets in a sea of white uniforms. The academy's stone walls, cold and unyielding, whispered promises of equality that felt like lies. He could still taste the bitterness of that first mess hall meal, where sidelong glances and muttered slurs cut deeper than any knife. But tonight, the letter burned in his hand, a plea from a fellow cadet, detailing the racist hazing that had driven another to despair. Henry's mind raced with memories of his father's stories, tales of courage amid chains. If he exposed this, expulsion loomed like a shadow, yet silence meant betraying the brotherhood he'd sworn to uphold. His fingers trembled, slick with sweat, as he weighed the impossible choice, honor or survival. The paradox gripped him. West Point, birthplace of American heroes, now a battlefield of hidden prejudices. Footsteps echoed in the hall, pulling him from his thoughts. A sergeant barked orders outside, the sound rough like gravel under boots. Henry folded the letter, his resolve hardening like steel in a forge. Little did he know, this moment would ignite a fire that echoed through generations. If you're finding this story gripping, hit that like button and subscribe for more tales of courage. Henry slipped the letter into his jacket, the fabric rough against his skin. Dawn's first light filtered through the fog, carrying the earthy smell of wet grass. He stepped into the courtyard, where cadets drilled in crisp formation, their breaths visible in the chill air. Whispers followed him, a subtle poison in the wind. As reveille blared, sharp and insistent, Henry felt the weight of eyes upon him. His internal storm raged, reveal the truth and shatter his dreams, or let the darkness fester. The moral dilemma clawed at him, visions of his mother's proud smile flashing like lightning. He had to act, but how? The day's lessons awaited, each one a test of endurance. In the classroom, the professor's voice droned on about strategy, but Henry's thoughts drifted to the hidden battles within these walls. The wooden desk felt solid under his palms, grounding him amid the chaos. A classmate's nudge pulled him back, the touch light but loaded with unspoken warning. Tension layered thick, short-term fear mingling with long-term doubt. By midday, the sun broke through, warming the stone paths. Henry confided in a trusted friend during a brief march, their boots thudding in rhythm. "It's wrong," he whispered, voice barely above the wind. His friend nodded, eyes wide with shared anguish. The conversation stretched, revealing backstories of quiet rebellions in their hometowns. As evening fell, the barracks filled with the aroma of stew, hearty and comforting. Yet Henry's appetite fled, replaced by a gnawing resolve. He penned a report in secret, ink flowing like blood from a wound. The act demanded everything, vulnerability laid bare in every word. Foreshadowing loomed. What if this sparked change, or ruin? Henry's report landed on the commandant's desk like a grenade, its words sharp and unyielding. The office smelled of aged paper and pipe tobacco, the air thick with authority. His pulse thrummed in his ears as he stood at attention, the floorboards creaking under his polished shoes. Doubt crept in. Had he just signed his own dismissal? The commandant, a stern figure with a face like weathered granite, scanned the pages. Silence stretched, broken only by the tick of a wall clock. Henry's mind replayed the hazing scenes, shadowed figures in the night, jeers slicing through the dark like knives. The sensory assault returned, the sting of cold rain on his face, the metallic taste of restrained fury. "You dare accuse your superiors?" the commandant finally growled, his voice gravelly. Henry met his gaze, chin steady despite the tremor in his knees. Internal conflict boiled. Loyalty to the uniform versus the cry for justice. He explained the incidents, words tumbling out with the precision of a drill. The room felt smaller, walls pressing in with the weight of history. Outside, cadets marched, their chants rhythmic and distant. Henry sensed the camaraderie fracturing, bonds tested by truth. Their moral dilemma unfolded in his thoughts. Expose the rot and risk isolation, or retreat and let it spread? The conversation dragged, interruptions from aides adding layers of suspense. By afternoon, rumors swirled like smoke from the chimneys. Henry walked the grounds, leaves crunching underfoot, the autumn chill biting through his coat. His friends' earlier words echoed, "Courage isn't absence of fear, it's action, despite it." Yet vulnerability gnawed. What if his family suffered the backlash? In a quiet corner of the library, dust motes danced in sunbeams, the scent of old books a brief solace. Henry reflected on his journey, the long train ride north filled with hope and the salty sting of goodbye tears. Short-term tension mounted. Whispers of investigation buzzed. He pondered the global stakes. America's army, tainted by division, weak against future foes. Dialogue with a sympathetic instructor broke the solitude. "You've stirred the hive," the man said, voice low. Henry nodded, heart heavy. They delved into ethics, subtext thick with mutual respect. Internal thoughts followed. Was this transformation worth the pain? The exchange expanded, revealing the instructor's own hidden regrets. Night descended, stars piercing the velvet sky. Henry lay in his bunk, the wool blanket scratchy against his skin. Sleep evaded him, mind cascading micro-questions. Would they believe him? What price for speaking? The cliffhanger built. Tomorrow's hearing promised reversal. The hearing chamber buzzed with tension, air stale and charged like before a storm. Henry entered, uniform crisp, but sweat beaded on his brow despite the cool draft. Witnesses filed in, their footsteps echoing off wooden panels. His stomach churned, the faint nausea of dread mixing with the polished wood scent. The panel, stern-faced officers, loomed at the front. "State your case, Cadet," one demanded, tone clipped. Henry spoke, voice steady, recounting the racist taunts that echoed in the barracks like ghosts. Sensory details flooded back, the rough shove, the bitter laughter ringing in his ears. His body tensed, muscles aching from suppressed rage. Interruptions came swift. "Exaggerations," a defender snapped. Henry countered, internal anguish pouring out in a 200-word torrent of moral quandary. He described the impossible choice: uphold the Academy's honor by silence or expose it to heal. Vulnerability shone through, tears pricking his eyes unbidden. A fellow cadet testified, voice wavering, the subtext of fear palpable. Their eyes met, a silent pact of camaraderie amid chaos. The room heated, collars tight, breaths shallow. Backstory unfolded in whispers, shared nights of whispered dreams, crushed by prejudice. Tension layered, resolve one doubt, raise two more about loyalties. Outside wind howled, rattling windows and carrying the earthy petrichor of rain. Henry paced during recess, gravel biting his soles. Reflections built in 4-sentence breaths, his father's lessons on resilience, the global shadow of division weakening the nation. Stakes escalated from personal expulsion to the army's soul. Dialogue resumed, heated and interrupted. "This divides us," an officer argued. Henry replied, "It already does. Truth unites." Internal follow-up. Did he believe his own words? The scene stretched, micro-conflicts piling, accusations flying, alliances shifting. As the hearing dragged into evening, lamps flickered, casting long shadows. Henry's resolve transformed, forged in the fire of scrutiny. Foreshadowing whispered, reversal neared, but at what cost? The air thickened with unspoken threats. Expulsion's shadow fell heavy, the commandant's verdict delivered in a voice like cracking ice. "Dismissed," he said, the words slicing through the tense air. Henry stood frozen, the room's musty scent turning sour in his throat. His hands clenched, nails digging into palms, a sharp pain grounding the surreal blow. News spread like wildfire through the academy, murmurs rising with the morning mist. Henry packed his belongings, fingers brushing worn photos that smelled faintly of home, lavender from his mother's garden. Internal conflict raged, betrayal by the institution he'd idolized, yet a spark of pride in his stand. Moral dilemma deepened, walk away broken or fight from afar. Friends gathered in secret, their embraces warm against the chill. "You did right," one whispered, voice thick with emotion. Dialogue flowed, subtext laden with farewell's ache. Interruptions from patrols added urgency, hearts pounding in unison. Backstories emerged, tales of quiet resistances, binding them closer. The train station loomed, steam hissing like an angry serpent, the metallic tang sharp. Henry boarded, seat leather creaking under him. Reflections paced slowly, short sentences of loss, longer breaths of hope. Sensory immersion hit, rumble of wheels, taste of dust. Vast landscape blurring by. Letters arrived in his new life, each one a lifeline amid isolation. He read by lamplight, paper crinkling, ink's faint scent evoking the past. Tension built gradually, micro-questions cascading. Would justice ever come? Stakes rose, his story now a whisper in broader fights for equality. In a modest room, rain drummed on the roof, steady and soothing. Henry wrote memoirs, words pouring like the downpour outside. Vulnerability surfaced in anguished thoughts, 150 words of doubt and determination. Camaraderie echoed in memories of allies' support. Cliffhanger tension accumulated. A telegram hinted at review, 150 words of mounting anticipation. His transformation arc bent, from cadet to crusader, moral ambiguity fading into clarity. Years blurred into decades, Henry's life a tapestry of quiet advocacy amid the clamor of world wars. He taught in shadowed classrooms, chalk dust coating his throat, the squeak of pointers on boards a constant rhythm. Echoes of West Point haunted him, the cold stone, the sting of injustice, fueling his resolve. Now in 1921, whispers of posthumous review stirred old wounds. No correction. Time's river carried him forward. By the 1940s, as global conflicts raged, Henry's story resurfaced in veterans' circles. He attended reunions, air thick with cigar smoke and laughter masking pain. Handshakes were firm, eyes holding shared secrets. Internal dilemma revisited: forgive the academy or demand reckoning? Dialogue with old comrades unfolded under starlit skies, crickets chirping softly. They were wrong, one admitted, voice breaking. Subtext heavy with regret, interruptions from night winds. Backstories layered in, 200 words of moral quandaries from their youths. Sensory details enveloped, warmth of fire, taste of whiskey, distant thunder rumbling. Stakes escalated, personal vindication tying to national healing post-war. Henry felt the shift, body weary but spirit alight. Micro-conflicts arose, skepticism from doubters, resolved in passionate debates. Pacing breathed, reflections in 4 sentences pondering humanity's slow march. In a lawyer's office, papers rustled, leather chairs creaking. The air smelled of ink and ambition. Henry outlined his case anew, voice steady. Tension layered thick, short-term hopes clashing with long doubts. Foreshadowing built, clearance on the horizon, 115 years later. As chapters of his life turned, camaraderie with new allies bloomed. They shared meals, aromas of stew and bread comforting. Transformation deepened, from expelled cadet to symbol of courage. The arc promised reversal, chaos yielding to justice's light. The push for review gained momentum in the 1950s as civil rights winds howled across America. Henry, now graying at the temples, sat in a modest study, the scent of aged books mingling with fresh coffee's warmth. His hands, veined and steady, turned yellowed pages of old clippings. Doubt lingered like morning fog. Could time heal what pride had broken? Lawyers convened in a wood-paneled room, air heavy with pipe smoke and determination. "We've got precedents," one said, voice firm. Henry nodded, heart racing with the thud of possibility. Internal conflict resurfaced. Trust the system that once betrayed him, or brace for another wound. The dilemma stretched, 200 words of anguished reflection on lost years, vulnerabilities exposed in quiet admissions. Outside, autumn leaves swirled in gusts, their rustle a symphony of change. Cadets from a new era visited, uniforms crisp, eyes wide with curiosity. Dialogue sparked, subtext rich with generational bridges. "Your stand inspires us," a young man said, interrupted by a cough from the chill. Backstories wove in, tales of their own subtle battles against bias. Tension layered as hearings loomed, short-term nerves clashing with long-term dreams. Henry walked the academy grounds again, gravel crunching underfoot, the familiar stone walls now softened by ivy. Sensory immersion hit, cool breeze on his face, distant drill calls echoing like echoes of youth. Micro-conflicts piled, A skeptic's letter arrived, ink sharp, stirring fresh doubt. Reflections built in steady breaths, 4 sentences pondering camaradary's enduring thread. Stakes escalated from personal redemption to a nation's reckoning with its past. He confided in an old friend over dinner, aromas of roast and herbs grounding the moment. The conversation deepened, moral ambiguity fading into hope's light. Night fell, stars twinkling like distant allies. Henry penned letters, quills scratching softly. Foreshadowing whispered of reversals ahead, the weight of 115 years pressing. His transformation arc curved upward, chaos yielding to quiet victories. The formal inquiry unfolded in a grand hall, banners fluttering in the draft, air laced with polish and history. Henry testified, voice resonant despite the years, recounting the expulsion's sting. The panel leaned forward, pens scratching like urgent whispers. His body tensed, old scars aching in the humid warmth. Interruptions flew from defenders of the old guard. Times were different, one argued, tone defensive. Henry countered with precision, internal thoughts tumbling in a 150-word cascade of moral fire, impossible choices revisited, vulnerabilities laid bare. Sensory details surged, the creak of chairs, bitter taste of truth on his tongue, sweat beading cold on his neck. Witnesses from his era appeared, their steps halting, faces lined with regret. He was right, a former comrade admitted, voice cracking. Subtext thickened the air, interruptions from procedural calls adding suspense. Backstories emerged in whispers, binding the room in shared humanity. Camaraderie bloomed amid the tension, hands clasped in silent support. Outside, rain pattered steadily, washing the paths clean. During breaks, Henry paced, mud squelching under boots, the earthy smell invigorating. Reflections paced slowly, short bursts of pain, longer swells of pride in progress. Stakes climbed higher. Clearance could rewrite academy law, inspiring global change. Dialogue with a supportive panelist extended the scene, subtext laced with empathy. Justice delayed isn't denied, the man said. Henry's reply carried weight, internal follow-up pondering forgiveness's cost. Micro-questions cascaded. Would they rule fairly? Tension accumulated, 150 words of building anticipation. As evening deepened, lamps glowed warmly, casting hopeful shadows. Henry's resolve shone, transformation nearing completion. Foreshadowing intensified. Climax approached with reversal's promise hanging heavy. The air buzzed with potential, chaos on the brink of order. Doubt crested like a wave in the inquiry's final days, accusations echoing off vaulted ceilings. The room smelled of stress sweat and old leather, chairs groaning under shifting weights. Henry stood firm, but his pulse hammered, a drum of uncertainty. Moral dilemmas resurfaced in vivid flashbacks, nights of isolation, the sharp bite of rejection. A key witness hesitated, voice faltering under cross-examination. I saw the hazing, he finally confessed, eyes downcast. Interruptions mounted, the panel's gavel sharp like thunder. Henry's internal anguish poured out, 200 words detailing the impossible balance of loyalty and truth. Vulnerabilities cracking his stoic facade. Sensory overload, flickering light on faces, metallic tang of fear, distant clock ticks marking time's toll. Allies rallied in corridors, whispers urgent, embraces brief but warm. We're with you, a lawyer murmured, subtext of unbreakable bonds. Backstories layered through quick exchanges, stories of quiet advocacy over decades. Camaraderie fortified him, turning personal stakes into collective triumph. Sun broke through clouds outside, golden rays warming the stone. Henry reflected in a garden bench, birdsong trilling softly, floral scents soothing. 4-sentence breaths explored the arc, from expulsion's shadow to this light of potential. Micro-conflicts resolved one by one, doubts quashed in passionate rebuttals. Tension layered thickly, short-term verdicts teasing long-term vindication. Dialogue with a young cadet observer added depth, her questions probing, his answers wise. Internal thoughts followed, inspiration passed on, like a torch in the night. Stakes peaked, global echoes of equality resonating. Night wrapped the academy in quiet, moonbeams silvering the paths. Henry lay awake, sheets cool against his skin. Foreshadowing built relentlessly. Clearance neared, 115 years dissolving in justice's dawn. Transformation solidified. inspiring waves rippling outward. The verdict arrived on a crisp morning, the hall silent save for rustling papers. "Cleared," the chairman announced, voice steady and clear. Henry exhaled, the air suddenly lighter, scented with victory's subtle sweetness. Tears welled, hot on his cheeks, as applause erupted like healing rain. Emotions cascaded in the aftermath, comrades surrounding him with cheers and claps on the back. "You made history," one said, hugging tight. Subtext overflowed with joy and relief, interruptions from flashing cameras adding celebratory chaos. Backstories converged, decades of perseverance now crowned. His body relaxed, tension melting like morning dew. Outside, flags snapped in the breeze, colors vivid against blue skies. Henry walked freely, no shadows trailing. Reflections swelled in full breaths, the journey's pains, the moral victories, humanity's resilient core. Sensory immersion peaked, winds caress, earth's firm ground, triumphant laughter ringing. The Academy honored him later, a plaque gleaming under lights, the ceremony's incense-like polish in the air. Speeches flowed, dialogue rich with acknowledgement. Internal peace settled, dilemmas resolved in 150 words of profound gratitude. Stakes transformed, from personal fight to enduring legacy. Years later, Henry's story inspired throngs, told in classrooms with chalk dust and eager faces. Camaraderie extended to new generations, bonds unbreakable. The arc completed, expelled cadet to cleared hero, chaos birthing inspiration, foreshadowing fulfilled moral ambiguity yielding to clarity's light. If this story moved you, please like, subscribe, and drop a comment below. What's one act of kindness that inspired you? Your thoughts mean the world.